Yep, what's going on, people? This is the 28 Minutes or Less podcast, and this is the first episode of 2021. I'm very excited for this episode, man. Coming into a new year, especially with this podcast. I'm trying to take this podcast to another level. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get the visuals and trying to get the audio and all that stuff together. But the reason I'm excited about this episode is for the simple fact of this is what I love about, having my own platform, right? Is the fact that when I do some of the movies and some of the TV shows that I do, right, a lot of it is to really draw people in, right? It's not really to jump on the hottest thing smoking. You know what I mean? So I try to give my synopsis on something to where it intrigues people to go out and check it out, right? So I'm not doing I never really got into the Game of Thrones, so I wouldn't be able to do something like the Game of Thrones, right? So I never really take like the hottest thing and to try to get people on it. I try to do things that I am very interested in and that I feel that's very intriguing, so people will go out and check it out, right? So my subject matter today is going to be a show that I am very proud to say that I watch. And the wild thing is, all right, so let me get it out the bag. The subject matter today is Luther, right? It is starring Idris Elba, Ruth Wilson, Warren Brown. Idris Elba is one of those very interesting characters. Like the first time I was made aware of him, it actually wasn't The Wire. I got onto The Wire late. The Wire was one of those shows that it was during the time that it was on, it wasn't like, the show, but like it was one of those word of mouth type of things where people caught on to it really late. Like The Wire was done when I first started watching it. And Luther, it wasn't done yet. Like it has 5 seasons. And I caught on to it like around, I believe it was on the 3rd season. And I think that Idris Elba is one of those type people who deserve to have his own show. And to have this type of show, and it's actually a BBC show that's, that's overseas and all that type of stuff, because a lot of people didn't even know this dude was from the UK at all. I mean, I didn't know he was from the UK. So it was very surprising to me when I heard him in the interview and he was speaking with his regular accent. And I was like, wow. And some of those people who's not me, but some people don't like the British accent and they really don't like listening to people talk like that. I don't mind it myself, but for him to do this type of show, and this is what I love about Luther the most, before I really get into the show to try to intrigue you to go out and watch this show, right? He plays John Luther, DCI John Luther. And the thing about John Luther that stands out to me is the fact that he wears the same suit every episode, right? And he has the same haircut, same beard, everything is the same. And what that tells me is that John Luther is really like I envision him to be like a superhero, right? To wear the same thing and to have the same haircut every episode that you are working, because there are some seasons where he's not working, right? And I will get into why some of those times that he wasn't working, and like, it wasn't that he changed his appearance, he just didn't care about his appearance. But what ended up happening when he started back working again, he went back to the red tie, back to the gray and black suit. Like he wears the same exact thing. And it's like, to me, like when he puts it on, that's like his superhero outfit. And he's one of those cops, and they turns copper. He's one of those who use the mind. It's a psychological guy. He's able to see the crime scene. He's able to look how a person would do an act of a crime and be able to figure out what this person was thinking while they was doing it. And they're not going to do a certain crime a certain way without certain things, right? So I'm gonna get into it. So basically it starts out, there's the thing about him is he's surrounded around chaos all the time. And if you listen to any of my podcasts, you realize that I am a person who loves the type of shows where people are surrounded by chaos, when there's just a whole lot of stuff going on all at one time. And it started out with this one crime scene where this girl was gone away for school. She calls the cops, says that her parents was murdered, right? So John Luther and his crew, and he had just got a new partner, which is Justin Ripley. Ripley is my guy, like, you know what I'm saying? And you will realize why, because he is one of the most ride-or-die dudes, like, in a TV show ever, right? So they pull up to this house, they go through the crime scene, parents are murdered, dog is murdered, and the only person that's the sole survivor is Alice Morgan, right? Now, Alice Morgan the actress is Ruth Wilson. She's really the only reason I even watched the show Affair that came on Showtime. Simply because of the job that she did on Luther. And so they brought her in, and DCI Luther is questioning her. And she's a very smart individual. And it caught on to Luther that she was very smart. And she knew how to dance around the facts to where she admits to it, but they don't have enough evidence to do anything. So within that interview, John know that she does it. You know what I'm saying? Luther know, like, she is the one who killed her parents. And he was trying to figure out why she killed the dog, because the way that they was killed, you could tell it was a crime of passion. It wasn't just like a robbery and somebody broke in and tried to steal the stuff and someone was surprisingly there. That's not how it went down. So within John trying to figure out this case, right? They have to let Allison go because they don't have anything on Allison, right? So within his life, his wife had broken up with him. And she started seeing another guy, which is named Mark, right? So during the time of him trying to go through this case, he's trying to get his wife Zoe back, right? And Zoe was telling him that she met, this guy or whatnot. John Luther is not he's a very easily tempered guy. He's a guy, he loses his cool, he punches walls, he throws chairs through windows. He's one of those type raging dudes when he get really, really upset. So he's already upset with knowing that Allison killed her parents and the dog. And Zoe is seeing this new guy, Mark, and he's trying to get Zoe back, but he's not having a lot of success at that. So while that's going on, Allison is following Luther around and figuring out some of these things as well. And Allison got this weird relationship with John. In the very beginning, it's different. Like, she was trying to be John's friend. And John is like, yo, we can't be friends. Like, I am going to arrest you. Like, you are going to jail. And he was like, as soon as I get enough evidence to get you, you're going to jail. So while that's happening, one of John's people that he worked with, which is DCI Ian Reed, Ian is caught up in some shit. And Ian ended up, I'm going to shorten this thing up because there's a whole lot more stuff to cover, is Ian ended up going over to Zoe's. And what he was trying to do was he was trying to catch John in a lie. Because Luther had got into some other shit. Because like that's one of the whole reasons why I'm going to say Joey. Zoe broke up with him in the first place, because his cases tend to take over their life. And she felt that she was, I guess she felt abandoned in the relationship. Okay, so that's why she ended up dating this guy, Mark. So like John Luther would go to her job, try to talk to her there, because she got to a point where she, told him to stop coming around, all this type stuff, yelling in her office, and everybody see what's going on, because that's John's MO. Like when he gets mad, he gets loud and he gets violent, and he tries to tone it down, but he can't. All right. So with all of that shit going on, right? Allison sees what's going on, and she goes to Zoe, and she actually pulls a knife on Zoe, right? So she pulls a knife on Zoe, trying to tell her to stop fucking around with the Mark dude. Because see, this is the weird thing about Allison. Like Allison, she knew her and John had like this, like something clicked with them, like instantly. Like while they was in that interview room, something happened. And so you would think that she would try everything she can to get with John. But in the very beginning, she was trying to help John get his wife back. That's what I'm saying. Stay with me, because it gets really, really, really complicated. So within that case, there's another case going on as well. So John is trying to fix two cases. He's trying to save his marriage. And he has this girl that is obsessed with him, that's following him around, that's, going up to his wife, because they were still married at the time, going up to his wife, threatening his wife. And John could do nothing about it, because Allison got something on John as well. And see, that was John's problem. John had got into so many things, because he was that cop that would toy with that line of being lawful and unlawful, right? So he always was on a thin line, to where some people thought that he could potentially be seen as a dirty cop. Now, with you watching the show, you would see that he's not a dirty cop, because he would do things that it was for the betterment of the case, to catch the people, right? So like, for instance, there was one guy who John and D.S. Ripley, they went over to talk to this guy. And this guy's wife is sick, and he ended up committing this crime. And John knew he did it. John knew he did the crime. And so John went over there, because he's one of those guys who, like I say, he know, there are certain people that are born with just this special skill, and John Luther had it. And he knew this guy did it, but he felt bad for the guy, and he thought that the guy did not deserve to go to jail. So there was one instance where John called him, right? Called the dude and he said something that would tip the dude off to know that they was coming to get his prints, because there was prints found on the scene of the crime. So my man went in there, he gets a blender, stick his hand in the blender, and destroys his own fingerprints, right? So Ian knew that, he called that dude and told him that we was finna come and get his prints. Now, you should never take law into your own hands, yes. But the reason the dude committed the crime, John thought that it was like one of those, one of those situations where somebody kind of deserved the crime. That's kind of like a vigilante type of thing. Like you going to revenge somebody's death. Like somebody who did something really bad, right? So the whole time with this going on, Allison is still out there. She's still causing chaos. Ian goes over to Zoe's house, and he tries to get Zoe to call Luther, for Luther to come over there. Zoe won't do it. So Ian ended up killing Zoe. And by the time Luther could get there, Zoe was already dead. So that was a really crazy scene, man. He went nuts in that. And then what was wild was him and Mark ended up working together after the fact, after Zoe was dead. And the wild thing with that is, when you look at, I guess you can call it British TV, right? So like, if I'm not mistaken, the first season had, I think, 6 episodes. And then it was like the second season only had 2. And then the third season had like 4. And then it went back to 2. And then it was like 3. So they don't have a lot of episodes. Now, they're an hour an episode. But like, from what I was told, British TV is a little different. They don't really have shows that have 10 episodes, you know what I'm saying, an hour a piece. That's just not how they really do things. Like, a lot of their stuff is shortened. And so they was able to squeeze in all of that stuff. And what ended up happening was, when Zoe died, Luther ended up being under investigation because they thought that he had something to do with it, because there was one scene where he went over to Zoe's house and him and Mark got into it and he punched him in the face. There was another instance where, you know, they knew that he broke a door or broke a window or something like that. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on, and they thought that John might have been the one who had did it. And John and Alice had got cool. And then what ended up happening the second season, while John was out on like leave or something, because they was, you know, he was under investigation. And so him and Allison went together. They left together and they had this whole relationship. And Allison, well, actually, he left Allison and he was like, Allison, there's no way that we could be together. There's no way in this world that we could be together. Like, I was investigating you for murdering your parents. I know you murdered your parents. So like, they always had like this give and take relationship with it. It was kind of weird. Like, they spent time together, and then he got off of investigation and he was cleared. But this is what happened. You come back in the second season, you get this new chick. I never liked this chick, DCI Gray. She comes in off the gate, hearing, because it was well known that he was on investigation. He had just got back, and they put her in basically like his unit type of thing. So Gray would talk to Ripley, you know what I'm saying, behind Luther's back, and say things like, yo, like, is he really dirty? Like, I just got this job. I don't want to lose my job, man, which I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. And like, Ripley's like, yo, he's never asked me to do anything that was illegal. He never asked me to do anything I did not want to do, and all of this type of stuff, right? So she could not let it go. She felt that it was necessary to go not meet, but it's like she gets with this other guy, right? So she gets with this other guy who wants to take John down. Like, he was like a former cop as well, and now he was kind of like, I don't know, maybe a private investigator type of guy. So she teams up with him, and then they get Ripley, and they try to get Ripley to make a statement that John was, you know, shifting around evidence, all of this type stuff to catch the people. Because like I say, he would toy with that line of doing things illegal to solve the crime that he was doing. So while Gray and this other guy is teaming up to take down Luther, they get Ripley in on it too. And so they got Ripley going around with a wire. And Ripley was, like I said, Ripley was my guy, because there was one time where he did it like he showed John indication that he was wired. So like, they gave each other this look, and was like, and he looked at John, he gave him that look like, dude, I have a wire on. Don't say anything incriminating. So then there would be scenes where, like, he's not an idiot. He's a very, very smart individual. And like he would see Justin out in the parking lot with Greg because she had left the unit. And so she would act like they was, you know what I'm saying, in a relationship, they're kissing and all this little stuff like that because they knew that John was following them. So throughout that but throughout that season, we're thinking he is going to rat John out. And the type of cases that John had, like there was one guy, right? Now, see, at this time, Allison was gone. No one knew where Allison was. Allison left. So there was one guy, he would have like these dice. And like it would land on certain stuff. And like what it would mean is if it lands on this number, you would use a gun to kill somebody. And it would tell you how many people to kill. He'll roll the dice again. And it'll be, you know, I would kill 5 people with a bat. You know what I'm saying? Like he would do all these different things. And so there was a scene where, so this guy, he goes into this office building and goes in there and he's like beating people with like a fucking hammer. And he's beating people with a hammer. And John kind of figured out like where he was going to be, shows up, and the dude tried to escape. He tried to switch clothes and tried to escape all this type of shit. They still figured out which one he was, so they took the dude to jail. This is the only problem. The only problem is another one of those crimes happened at a Subway. Well, in a Subway. Not Subway restaurant, but like, you know what I'm saying, like a Subway in New York type of thing. But over there in the UK. A guy went nuts at the Subway and he ended up killing, I think that, oh man, is that when Ripley died? Well, he ended up killing somebody. No, it was a civilian that chased him down with a gun and he killed that dude. So that was off, you know, off the script for that guy. So anyway, they're like, so how does this crime happen again? Right? With the same guy, but we got him detained. This dude had a fucking twin, and both of them was running these games off of killing people and using this dice. So with all of that going on, John ended up, this girl Jenny, she ended up coming to stay with him because his mom, he dealt with her mom, not in a sexual way. It was just like, I can't remember if it was his old partner or if it was an old suspect that he had that killed somebody. And no, I think that her father was subject to like one of those heinous crimes. I can't remember exactly. So she ended up staying with him. Now Jenny's only like, I don't know, 18, 21, some shit like that. And it was never any kind of funny business or anything like that. But like there was these other people that was after John. So these people are after John. And like there was one instance where the dude found out where John stayed, went into his house. Because, they was coming after John. These people was coming after him because Jenny was, I don't know if she was a prostitute necessarily, but she did some work for them. I believe it was in that realm of work. And they wanted her back, and John is like, no, y'all can't have her. So the dude went over there to go take her, and then she ended up killing him. And so with the cases that he's running, also looking out for Allison, also still dealing with the death of his wife, also still working with Mark, because he would call Mark every once in a while to help him out with certain things. And with all of that, Ripley is acting funny, and he know Ripley is running the wire and all this type of shit. Like that, like I said, there's a whole bunch of shit going on. And what ended up happening when we thought that Ripley was going to snitch, because John thought he was going to snitch. And John found their little hideout. So he went into their little hideout and he busted their whole shit up, exposed Gray, and he listened to the confession that Ripley had. He thought Ripley sold him out. But Ripley, basically told him he's never done anything illegal. Fuck you type shit. So Ripley, he ended up dying, and that really took a toll on John when Ripley died. But like my whole thing with Luther is, if you are a person that's interested in psychological crimes and having that one cop, because, okay, right? There's a lot of people that love the shows like CSI and CSI Miami and you know what I'm saying? And all of that type shit. This Luther show got these shows beat by a mile. They have nothing on the show. Like I say, some people are annoyed. I mean, I'm not. I actually like it, the British accent, but there are some people that are annoyed with it and say that, because I know I was trying to get one of my friend guys to watch it, and they was like, yo, I cannot listen to that British accent like for an hour. And I mean, that's cool. Everybody got their own taste. But I think that I can easily say I watch a lot of TV shows. This is my number one TV show. And I didn't even do its justice. You know what I'm saying? Like there is a whole lot more. There's a whole lot other cases that he had. And like I say, within him doing all of these cases, he is being investigated and he's being watched like a hawk. And like there are people that are looking out for his best interest, and there are people that are looking out for his worst interest. And then like I always thought that it was interesting that we don't really see a lot of these people tied to the subject. We don't see a lot of people that take their job as serious as Luther took his job, to also really kind of be in love with Allison. Like he would try to fight it. Like he ended up dating this one girl, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was season 3. And I believe that's when Allison popped back up. It was either season 3. I think, yeah, it was season 3. He just basically got into a car accident. This girl hit him in the back, or he hit her in the back, whatever. And they exchanged numbers because of insurance purposes, so she can get her car fixed. And then they went out on a couple of dates, and basically, DCI, great. I told you I hated that bitch. She went up to the girl and like told her about John's old cases, told her about Allison and all of this shit. And it was just like, even with that, like, I don't think that John would have been able to have a relationship with someone, because he always had Allison on the mind. And I always thought that it was interesting to see these people who are those type of psychological cops or detectives or whatever you want to call it, or a copper. Those people never really be tied to someone who's murdered somebody. And John was one of those cops, because this is what you got to realize about British cops. Like a lot of the time, a lot of them don't carry guns. John never carried a gun. Like he really didn't even fuck with guns at all throughout all 5 seasons. And there was one, right? And this guy, he would murder people, but he always would murder people with a mask on, right? And there was one scene where he had kidnapped a bunch of kids off a bus. Like these kids was going on a field trip, and he was gonna blow up the bus. So John figured it out. He figured out where they were, and he went up on the dude. But they had a run-in before, and dude dropped his mask, so he didn't have his mask. So John walks up to the bus, and he's talking to the dude, and the dude got a gun to a kid's head. And John's like, yo, everything's going to be all right, kids. Everything's going to be all right. Okay, y'all can start exiting the bus. And dude is like, yo, I got a gun. I'm in charge here. And John is ignoring him because he knew, like, just by the way that he would murder people, by the way that he would look at the crime scenes, the way that he would, because there was video, because the dude would only murder people when he knew that there was a street camera, because he murdered this one girl on the street and he looked up at the street camera and kind of like turned his head, type of Michael Myers type of shit, right? So John knew he will not kill people if he's not on film, and he will not kill people without that mask. Like, he can't kill without those two things. So he's telling these kids, y'all just come on kids, come get out the bus. He's like, yo, I got a gun, I will blow it, I will kill these kids. And like John is like completely ignoring them. He's like, yo, like, don't you see me? I'm standing right here. And John ignored because he knew if you ignore him, he don't have no video, he don't have no gun. I mean, not gun, but he don't have his mask. He's not gonna do anything. And like, that's how smart John was. I think that this TV show is, I have watched it maybe 3 or 4 times. I'm talking all 5 seasons. Like I said, it ain't that many to watch. That's also a plus, but it is so rewatchable to the fact of like, I just really think that when you think about a guy like Idris Elba, this dude really is becoming like a whole legend out here, in the work that he done. And I think that when you are able to get your own show, like, I don't think people are really taking shows. When you are the star of the show, I don't think that some people are taking the show for the money. I think Idris Elba took this show because he embodies it so differently than anybody. I can't think of another actor that could have done it. Like I said, I didn't even do its justice on this podcast today. I really didn't, because it is really one of the greatest shows on TV. So I hope people will go out and check it out, because it is really, really great. But what ended up happening is, I won't say it. Hopefully my audience will go check it out. So in closing, I just want to say, I hope that people will continue to listen to this podcast, man, you know, throughout the year of 2021. I'm really trying to be more consistent with this podcast. I taken breaks on this podcast before, and I'm really trying to ramp it up, man. Also, when it comes to this podcast, if it's not every week, it'll be every 2 weeks. Because when you're doing it solo, you don't really want to talk about things that you really don't know that well. So I'm going to try to be more consistent with this podcast, with also keeping the Stolen Time podcast going and the Viewers Anonymous podcast. When it comes to the Stolen Time podcast, I just did end of 2020. So go check out that episode, man. Shout out to Uncle Washington, and shout out to Sinclair Cannon. He came on to the last episode, which that was episode, that was 194 of the Stolen Time podcast. All major platforms. Please rate, subscribe, all of that good stuff, man. I'm also trying to take that podcast to another level. Also check out the Viewers Anonymous, the last podcast me and the homie Scoops Bronson did. We did it with Jamal. We had our first guest on the Viewers Anonymous podcast. We just had our 1-year anniversary on the Viewers Anonymous podcast. That was the one that Jamal was on. We did the movie, well, not the movie, but we did the whole franchise series of Rocky, including the 2 Creed movies. So please go check that out, man. We had a fun time doing it. The video will be up by this time. anybody see this, hopefully that video will be up. Please go to Scoots Bronson's YouTube page to find all the video for the Viewers Anonymous podcast. We bring heat. Like, it's a lot of heat coming with that podcast on the Viewers Anonymous. Like, we got something special that we're doing different this year. So all I'm gonna say is be looking out for the month of February when it comes to the Viewers Anonymous podcast. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on over there. We got some changes that are going on over there. Also, I did some changes to the Stolen Time podcast. I changed the photo for it. The graphic, we got a new graphic for it. Just trying to take it to another level, man. And we've been using that for the past 3 years because we're going on year 4 for the Stolen Time podcast, me and Uncle Washington. So be on the lookout for all of those things. I'm also talking with some people trying to get the website up. So be on the lookout for the website. I will give you the information when I got it. That's just something that I'm working on. Also, let me see what else I got. Stuff is slipping my mind right now. But be on the lookout for the Facebook page, the Stolen Time Podcast. 28 minutes or less do not have one, but everything on the Stolen Time Podcast will have everything for the 28 minutes or less. And you can find both of those on all major platforms, man. There's Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Overcast, iHeart. We all over the place. So also, that goes for all 3 podcasts. Please go check out the Stolen Time Pod on Instagram, s.foster8 on Instagram and Twitter. The VA Podcast Watch Group page on Facebook. So, man, before I get out, shout out to Casey. Casey was on the beat. Appreciate that dude. And also be looking out for him. We coming with part 2 of the music, man. We're doing the 90s through present. So be on the lookout for part 2 with Casey and the Scoots Bronson. Also, shout out to Scoots Bronson, my co-host of the Viewers Anonymous podcast. Also, shout out to Uncle Washington, my co-host with me on the Stolen Time podcast. Shout out to Jamar with the Culture Connoisseur podcast. I appreciate all his support and also jumping on the Viewers Anonymous. He's also about to jump on another episode, so be on the lookout for that as well on the Viewers Anonymous. Shout out to Candace, man, who always supports. I appreciate her support, man. She's been really down with all 3 podcasts, man. And, you know, I really appreciate it, man, for the past, year and a half, man. She's really been holding it down. So, and she's holding us down in Kentucky. So I really appreciate that. Also, who am I missing? Shout out to Mark. And also shout out to Sinclair. So this was episode 31. If I didn't mention that in the beginning, I don't know if I did or not. But this was episode 31 of the 28 Minutes or Less podcast, and I am out.